being here. And I'd like to start with introducing one another. First with Professor Kim.
Legion, Information Systems. I'm currently the chair of the Information System Department. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Lutfa Saeed. I see several of my students, current and past. I'm a professor of information systems.
Dragutin Petkovic, professor of computer science and fighter for not forgetting humanity in all this technology and AI. Okay.
Hi, I'm Sam Gill. I guess I have students here who I've only met on Zoom, so I apologize. And I'm a professor and I teach 2 classes on AI.
Awesome, thank you. So I'd like to start with you, Professor Gill. Recently, the CSU made a contract with OpenAI to acquire ChatGPT EDU, access for all students, faculty, and staff within the CSU system. You may have gotten an email this Wednesday about it. So with this 18-month contract of using ChatGPT for students, I feel like the effectiveness of how important that investment is comes down to the teachers, because you guys are directly involved with the personal development of students and what they learn. So Professor Gill, how are you addressing AI literacy and critical thinking about AI systems in your courses? And should AI literacy courses be mandatory for all students, regardless of major?
So I teach 2 courses. The first course, which I'm teaching for the first time this semester, is ISIS 573, and it's all about using Gen AI and LLM. The purpose of the course is, if you're thinking about what they'll learn at the end of the course, is how do we take LLMs and adapt them to using corporate data. So there are different levels of adaptation of LLM. You've heard the people here mention in the industry how they can ask questions. Well, in order to ask questions, you have to add the data, your data, to LLM, and then you can do your queries. So at the beginning, we begin at a very rudimentary level. We basically teach how do you do proper prompting. So you're going to learn all about prompt engineering. What happens if the mode changes? So AI literacy means how, when you walk into an organization, they say, we would like to use AI to answer certain questions. You look for the data. And then from the data, you will be able to utilize it. In essence, we're moving from software 1.0, which was the old way of taking a process, writing the code, and then generating the system, to software 2.0, where we take the data, and from the data, we build the systems to answer. That's one course. The second course is ISIS 573, which we teach in the fall, which is all about using machine learning to answer questions. You might remember there was a question up very early today in the keynote. How do you tell if a customer churns? Well, that happens to be a supervised machine learning. But there's also unsupervised. So half the semester we spend on supervised, half on unsupervised. That's the literacy. The second part of your question was, should AI literacy be mandatory? And that's my pet peeve. It must be mandatory. You're going out to the world expects you to know that. How did you graduate without knowing what is a prompt, how to construct prompts properly? Show of hands. How many of you know what tokenization is? Thanking my students. You have to understand, when language comes in a query, it gets tokenized. Those tokenizations then go through a process of embedding. How many of you know why ChatGPT was invented in 2022? It was all about a paper written in Stanford it's all about attention, which said there's some words that are more related than others. Those are things you must know, because then you'll understand what this is all about. Why it's generating intelligent answers as opposed to garbage, right? Because there is attention. So those are the things that I think in literacy, and then doing something with prompt engineering, so you'll know, how do I create good prompts so I will get good answers. You must know that. Every student getting out of college must know that. And then finally, regardless of major, I think the accounting major, I was talking to an accounting professor during lunch, must know what those tools are all about. Thank you.
This is a panel and conversation style, so if you have any questions or comments, you're welcome to raise your hand. Professors, do you have anything to add on?
I agree. So all majors starting early. Now, I also work at SF State with CETL, what is it, Center for Teaching Excellence. It used to be their professor, Jennifer Trainer, I told her about 3 laws of robotics from Isaac Asimov. Anybody in 1943? Don't do the harm, the robot should not harm human and stuff. She says, oh, let's do 3 laws of teaching AI. And remember the plenary talk in the morning. The first point was you should understand a little bit how it works. At the level corresponding to your discipline. So you don't have to go through all the details, but you have to understand a little bit how it works, which is what you said, rather than blindly use the tools. The second thing is usage, how to use it. The third thing is protect, how not to use it, such as, I remember President Reagan, trust and verify. Now, my mantra is, I read it from somebody, distrust and verify, not trust but verify, distrust and verify. You have to check every reference and everything because it could be hallucination, but then the issue is, how do you even know if it hallucinates? Because A, it speaks very authoritatively, doesn't give you any confidence level. Like CIA will give assessment and say low probability of this being correct. This thing knows everything. Certainly, kaboom, such as to make pizza more gooey, add glue. Gemini, $1 trillion company, produces that garbage for your kids to do at home. What happened? It picked up one Reddit comment as a joke, but it doesn't understand the joke. So garbage in, garbage out. There is a lot of danger, not only in hallucination, but promoting bias and wrong information and manipulation by bad actors because systems are opaque. So we need to teach students. Another thing I would mention for all of you, critical thinking, i.e. don't let Gen AI anchor you to the first recommendation it gives you. You have to explore. It's called anchoring bias. It just gives you one thing, you stay with this, cut and paste and submit, no critical thinking. So we need to teach a lot, but I would say also a little bit about it appropriate at the level of the discipline. And start early, by all means. Everybody.
So part of prompt engineering is to ask for alternatives. Part of prompt engineering, after the answer comes back, the completion, you say, well, how did you get to that? So you guys don't take everything blindly. You're the human in the system, and you have to accept that role as a critic of what comes back.
I wanted to move on to Saeed. With ChatGPT EDU available to everyone at the CSU, what immediate opportunities and challenges do you see in your discipline, both in teaching and research?
Oh, thank you. But before I move on, I just want to make sure that you guys know that I'm a baby compared to these two, right?
Chronologically, maybe?
But, you know,
Not intellectually.
You stole my thunder.
But I was going to say that because, you know, speaking of prompt engineering, I'm working on some assignments, and I see at least one of my grad assistants there on some prompt engineering assignments. Sam found out that I'm working on this, and he sends me these notes and says, "These are my teaching notes," and and I use them. I gave it to my grad assistants. They said, "This is great," and we're almost very close to finishing up, right? These assignments on prompt engineering, and then Dragutin yesterday goes, "You know what? University should just stop checking for plagiarism." Okay, it's like, yeah.
I will explain. It's not the whole story, but I will.
Okay, but we'll get back. Both of them have lots of stories to tell. But what I want to say is that, Sam and I, we know each other for a long time now. I won't say how many years. But when I first met him, we were working with a totally separate set of technologies. Totally separate set of technologies. And those are fun days, right? These were the 90s. There were a lot of money floating around. And we just have to grab them. And Sam kind of showed me the way, and he keeps showing me the way, okay? And Dragutin and I, we run into each other in meetings, and he's always saying things like what he just said, and keeps me young. That's the whole thing. These are the ideas that these guys have are always challenging. So I'm using it in research. There was a research paper I published in 1995 using neural network, 1995, mind you, that many people didn't know what to do with neural network, but I was using it to separate independent contractor, the accounting professor there, independent contractor, and employees, right? I used 120 observations at that time, but in those days, there was very few tools available for sifting through qualitative data. Text analytics is definitely not, tokenization and all of that were still in very early stage. That didn't happen until, that took a while. So now I've got 1,500, these are court cases, judges' opinions, that I'm sifting through. And I was presenting this paper 2 years ago, and at that time I was discussing a model called GPT. This was in November of 2022. What happened, Sam mentioned earlier, what happened in in November of 2022? Sam already mentioned. ChatGPT came out, okay? So there are some of us, we already knew about GPT, something called BERT, B-E-R-T, and many others. I don't want to go to the details. So that's one case that Gen AI is helping a lot. Now I've got 1,500 court cases that I can sift through and find answers to my research questions. But one of the challenges of teaching Gen AI, and I totally agree with you, Sam, that this is a must. We must know this from an early age. I have a 12-year-old daughter who already knows how to use ChatGPT. So all you are young people, trust me, the younger ones are even quicker to jump at this technology, okay? And the two projects I'm working on, one is text summarization, and the other is image classification, okay? So analytics has moved from number crunching to data that was unprocessable even like 2-3 years ago. Okay? And you want to do statistical analysis now? Go to ChatGPT or go to Claude, okay? And you'll see much better ideas. Okay? So analytics, the field of analytics has been transformed. Okay? And as we were listening to people this morning, okay? Especially those in the industry. So no more of that data, nice arranged data, rows and columns full of numbers and few categorical variables here and there. Now we can go through any type of data, okay? And a lot of potential now, opportunities, everything you heard today. So yeah, research, teaching, I'm a professional academic, that's all I keep doing, okay? And I'm glad I have my guru, Ustad, Sam Gill. So keep learning. If Sam could teach me now, then Sam will teach me in 20 years too. Hope you're both around. but keep learning, somebody said that. And I think in my class I always say, learn how to learn. That's the key. The technology, the tools don't matter. There's one last comment, I think. Gen AI, right now, Gen AI tools are where we were in early to mid 80s with spreadsheets. Okay? So that's a tool you have to know how to use. And I'll talk a little more about this later, but let me move on to Juan again.
Professor Jim, what guidelines have you implemented for students' use of AI tools in your coursework? And if you have not implemented, why not?
I use with the iOS app development. So for business students, right, over the years, it's always a little bit challenging. So right now, I encourage my students using AI-generated help assistant to create code to help them develop apps. So I typically teach the fundamentals, like the syntax and all the relevant pieces for them to put together a basic app. And then I set them loose. I said, hey, I gave them to the teams, and I said, you are going to follow the originally the Stanford ME 310 curriculum, which is design thinking curriculum on basically human-centered design principles. So I would like to thank the dean and also Nasser for funding this project. So this year we worked with Paris B School and 5 French companies. They're specifically supply chain area, and their challenge for us is to how might we help the supply chain professionals adapt to Gen AI. So that is very relevant to Gen AI, and our students has been working on this project since last September. And we worked with students in France, and we just recently during the spring break, we went to Paris and meet our partner schools and worked with them in person on this project, and we made a lot of progress. And of course, during the process, we interviewed around 15 companies who are using Gen AI, and also in the supply chain area. And we have prototyped the ideas, and we tested with the French companies from within. It's very, our students, I think 3 of our students already get internships and work jobs. So it's very, because of this work. So it's very first of all, it's a global innovation, and it's a design thinking, it's Gen AI. So if you look at from a different perspective, it's all together, and it's a very valuable experience for our students. I just want, also we learn the global collaboration, right? So we are, as Silicon Valley, we're very excited about Gen AI. We're like, we do this, and the French students was always pushed us back, said, we're not ready for this. There's EU regulations, we have to check. So it's very interesting. And I think the students with this, especially with this experiential learning, students have, interviewed companies, test with users. The whole process really helps students to understand Gen AI and how they're using companies.
Thank you, Professor Jen, and I believe you guys will be showcasing the progress of the project later today, is that correct?
Yes. Our groups were showcasing. Yeah, do you have a question?
Yes.
Do I start a Q&A? Am I starting?
Oh, I was just gonna ask one more question and then go on to the Q&A. The last question, and it's a quick question and you can answer, is what core skills will remain irreplaceable by AI? And how do you currently emphasize these skills in your teaching? Anyone can jump in.
Yeah. I just quickly, because I already said it, irreplaceable skills other than AI, that's what you're saying?
Yes.
Teamwork, working in a team, understanding the problem by talking to customers, being able to translate it into actionable requirements, code, project management, which involves people. Number one cause of failure of software projects documented is teamwork, disorganization and stuff. It's not, I'm sorry to say to all my friends, it's not Python versus this. That gets solved. Now it will get solved even easier. It's you don't understand what people do, you hire people who break your teamwork, blah, 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 blah. So these are skills that we have to continue teaching, in addition to modifying curriculum to adapt to AI tools.
Thank you.
Can I add to that? I guess what Raghujan is saying is mostly soft skills. You have to have strong communication skills, of course. And that learning how to learn constantly, that's definitely the case. But what gets demoted in that process is also the hard skills, the ones that we are teaching, okay? If you don't have the hard skills and all you do is soft skills, there's a name for that, okay?
Yeah.
I will not say it in company here.
Of course, I agree. I didn't mean to, but we have to modify the hard skill, right? It's not coding itself, it's how to use the tool, how to check the code, how to integrate, adapt to customers. So it's modifying. Otherwise, we cannot distinguish hallucination from real information if we don't have any knowledge, right?
Yeah. So, yeah, I agree.
Hallucination.
Oh, sorry. I mean really bad hallucination. My kids are at home making pizza and they put the glue in the pizza. Sorry. That's $1 trillion company launching that. Remember Gemini Pictures with coded diversity?
Oh, yeah.
SS German soldiers as African Americans from $1 trillion company. Sorry, it's pathetic, in my opinion, to launch something like that. That's what I call real hallucination, which is, by the way, a wonderful marketing blip for simply a wrong answer. They came up with hallucination, really. It looks like LSD, I'm cool, LSD, I'm hallucinating. No, you are doing something really bad to society by providing often harmful information to people. That's what I mean. But ideas could come from this serendipity, right? That's also a possibility.
Well, thank you so much for your insights. As of now, I'd like to open the questions to the audience. Yes, ma'am.
Yes, I'll go first. Michael, please. Yeah. I like to be loud and clear. Hi, thank you. So, hi. Hi. Okay. So, from the conversation, and thank you so much, I finally get to see the professors here. I think, like, from what I've learned through this conversation, I think the biggest concern is not like learning how to learn. I think the bigger concern is learning the teaching method and then like conversing as well between the professor and the student. Like if I'm doing language arts, for example, how do I at first learn through AI first, and how do I convert that to the professor? How do I tell the professor, oh, I think this is the better way? Because I think with information systems, like, you guys are amazing, right? Right?
Yeah.
But if you go to an English class, how do you learn English? With AI. And I wonder if, as professors, as peer faculty, what is the solution that you're aiming towards?
I can only tell you I'm honored to work with Professor Jennifer Trainer from SSH. She's truly amazing and you can talk to her. She teaches English and I would say some areas are more affected by this than the others. So it's a challenge. I mean, she's talking something I don't even understand, composition and stuff like that. But yesterday I interviewed the chair of design school, Mary Kulik, and she said AI tools replace a lot of low-level stuff, but not high-level design. So I think we are all moving up the chain. Instead of checking statistics, porting COBOL to Python, it can do it for you. Maybe you have more time to talk to customer, what's really your problem and stuff. So it's not easy to answer your question, depends on the area, but I think language arts, they have to increase critical thinking. Instead of just submitting the paper, they probably have to argue about what's good, what's bad about this and stuff like that. But it requires change in the way you teach and assess the student stuff, that's for sure. I don't know if you guys can.
Oh, you have anything to add?
We're dealing with a disruptive technology, right? We all agree on that?
Yes.
Yeah.
So some areas, it sort of begs to implement the disruptive technology. Other areas are going to find it much more difficult. Like the language arts, maybe it's a little more difficult. But honestly, there has to be a willingness. You can't just be, oh wait, I'll wait till somebody else figures that out. So if a professor, like he mentioned, is willing to go in and think about how do I change my course to be more relevant, that's all it takes. I mean, think about me, I'm retired, I don't get paid, I've invented a new class.
Yeah.
Why? Because I think you guys should know it.
And it's the best longevity medication is to be active and curious. I have to tell you that. You should pay them. You should pay them to allow you to teach students for free. Because it's
I
healthy.
do. I'm paying for their open AI.
Really serious.
You are paying $20 a month, everyone.
Huh?
You're paying $20 per month for every student in class.
No.
For the API.
Because the API, you get free all that stuff now with the chancellor, but the API, I get charged weekly.
Oh no.
No, it's not money, $5.
Thank you.
Oh, I had a similar kind of question. So when I write a resume, I use AI to help me write it. When a company receives the resume, they use AI to read it.
Partner, Claude AI. So the sky's the limit. I mean, it's there. And am I positive? Yeah, there's hallucinations along the way. There's all kinds of hiccups. Which technology didn't have hiccups? We're just at the beginning. So yes, we will overcome and we'll learn to be responsible and we'll learn to do it right, but you're on the ground floor. You walk into an organization, you say, I know how to do these things. Oh my God.
Oh, Professor, I just wanted to add on top of what you said. I think in one of your classes, you referred to these hallucinations as innovation. Is that still the case?
What?
Like, do you still refer to hallucinations as innovation?
Yeah, well, hallucination became a bad run. So they learned something from genetics, finally, that not all, changes will survive, and some will be good. So why do we call them hallucinations? We'll call them innovations, and some of these innovations aren't that great. But some might be great, in which case we've discovered, as we talked during lunch, a new protein, and as a result, the person who worked with DeepMind in England got the Nobel Prize for chemistry because they discovered a new protein. I rest my case.
So just to correct, I'm fairly positive and we don't have a choice, but I strongly encourage students, besides AI and stuff, your personal teamwork communication skills, two issues. And you heard it this morning, companies are asking people to be there in person. Why is that? Because you have to work with others to make success, and it has to be in the same room. So when Sam sends me email, Dragutin, you are bleeping about AI, why are you so negative? And I'm not. If I don't see his body language, I get upset at him. Now when he smiles at me in the same room, I don't. So the human communication is much more nuanced than AI. So AI is a tool, you have to learn it, but there will be many others who will learn it too, and AI will get better. So you have to think yourself, what you add to the company, you heard it this morning, problem solving, curiosity, exploring, and knowing how to use AI. And so think of it in that holistic way, I would say, and not just, oh, I learned how to prompt. That's a necessary thing, may not be sufficient for success. That's what I would say.
Can I add something to
Oh, yes, and then Professor.
that? Finally, I'll get to learn. I think I got it. Can you hear me? Yeah.
Yes.
So, how many of you have taken the driverless taxis? Okay. So, I live in the city. Next block to my house, there's just one block is like horrible situation. The condition of the street, there are like potholes, and I mean, we pay taxes. I don't know why the city doesn't fix it. We have called them a few times, but anyways, when I drive there, I usually avoid the potholes, and but if you take Waymo, to my shock, Waymo just guns it. I mean, and here I am. So, well, yeah, it comes back to that I with the lowercase I, okay? So, but we're working on it.
It's all input. And the right input about what you see as a pothole.
Yeah, so anyway, so Waymo is working on it, I'm sure. But, yeah, so yeah, there are glitches, and there'll be new glitches, and it'll just go on, So, maybe slightly off topic here. In the 1960s, New York Times bestseller list was a book called Zen and the Art of Motorcycle Maintenance. Okay, and it is amazing to think that Americans read that book so much in the 1960s, and here we are that's another story altogether. But it's about this man who's a professor of English at Montana State is driving across the country with his son. And the whole thing is about his relationship with his near and dear ones and the technology, the motorcycle. Okay? So our relationship with technology has been forever, from day one, I guess. And as we use technology, we invent, innovate, maybe. It's new uses. Some of those uses are very useful, and some of them are not. Some of them could be disastrous. And this interaction between technology and us, we evolve, right? And that's exactly what's happening to us with GenAI, or I mentioned about spreadsheet. It's the same thing. In the spreadsheet, when I first learned spreadsheet, we could not do linear programming. And now, spreadsheet will give you linear programming, integer programming, basic statistical modeling, and so on and so forth. Is all that good? I don't know. But obviously use it.
Oh, I'd just like to move on. Sorry.
Sure.
So sorry, can I add one point?
Yes.
I just, I took Sam's stand. I'm also very positive about this. I just want to quote one of the person we interviewed, and he works at the company and very experienced in this. And he told me that with Gen AI, he said it's a life-changing experience for him when he first used it, right? And he said it's like hiring an intern, an assistant, and who could help me with 80% of my work, right? He said, Professor Jen, I have never had an assistant work for me in my entire work life, right? So imagine that, and that, you know, he just felt like he gets so much help from Gen AI and Chat GPT that, yeah, again, I was very impressed with that quote. Thank you.
Perfect, thank you. And just to check in, we do have 18 minutes, and I want to leave 10 minutes for questions at least, so 8 minutes total. The next question is for Professor Petkovic, and it's how has AI affected your methods of assessing student performance? And can you share examples of AI significantly enhancing or undermining learning outcomes?
I think I commented a bit of, I had to change the old summary paper to actually do it yourself, and people follow academic integrity, you know, they could do both summaries with ChatGPT, they don't, but the key thing is the reflection on comparison. For example, if the paper is mostly text, rating was 4.5 out of 5. If there is a lot of graphics and numbers, summarization quality goes down. So they learn, we learn. So I had to modify that. I had to do a lot of self-thinking, should I deal with plagiarism or not? I soon enough realized, forget it. And soon I get a headache, and it's not good, and students would hate me for that. But I would say another thing, I have to tell you how I teach software engineering. I've been in industry. Number one complaint of industry is not that the students at my time didn't know how to program. They didn't know how to work in a team and talk to customers. So I put them in a team of 6 and simulate the startup. They get one paragraph what they do. They have to figure out this and that. I play the role of customer. They interview me and stuff. So assessments, one thing that we published, and a lot of people say, don't do assessments mechanically and God forbid with AI tools. Because don't forget, you violate FERPA. The moment you put the student assignment in ChatGPT, if it's not secure, it's not confidential, you violate FERPA, which is legally, it's tying up you legally. So, my take is have assessment based on observation of teamwork, discussion, presentations, and then have students provide maybe even handwritten answers in the class. Ask them to summarize stuff that is not digital. For example, summarize the seminar given yesterday in the class, you know, things like that. Because everything else, the danger is over-reliance on good first answer for Gen AI. And yes, good students will do well, but a lot of students will go easy way. So plagiarism issue exists. We have to change the way we actually do things and avoid relying on simply, here is a problem, show me what you did, and you grade it. So I do change a lot of the way I do assessments. Luckily, my original method of assessing teamwork by observation stays, and it's not so much affected by Gen AI.
Yeah,
So,
that's part of adapting, right?
part of adapting, yeah. Yes, by all means, we all have to adapt. That's the extra load on faculty. So it's very stressful. And some of them are slower, and then there is fear, they're overwhelmed. Students, you have to understand that. And statistics is that 86% of students in the survey of early 25 use ChatGPT,